Good morning. Question for parents and those hoping to become parents someday. What is the most important thing you could give your child? What is the greatest gift that you could give to them? A lot of things might come to mind, especially in the high pressure and sometimes confusing parental environment of today, but perhaps a bit of clarity can be gained by looking back and asking the question from the other side. What was the most important thing your parents gave to you? What is the greatest gift they gave that most shaped who you are today, that most made you who you are? I think framing it like this starts to cut through some of the fluff, some of the extra stuff, things that looking back weren't actually as important. Nice vacations, new toys, travel sports teams, bigger houses, etc. Sure, these things aren't bad, but were they actually as important as we sometimes imagine they are? No. What actually mattered when you were a kid? Love, that your parents were there for you, that they loved you unconditionally. Faith, that they taught you the things that mattered about who God is. Hope, that they wanted to give you the best life that they could. Where am I going with this? Well, as you know, we're in the midst of the Stewardship for Saints and Scholars campaign. And a month and a half ago, you might remember we had the screens in here, and we watched the video from the bishop. And you've probably received information in the mail, and some of you have already given pledges. Thank you. From our parish alone, we hope to raise $2.96 million over the next 5 years that will go to advancing Catholic education in our diocese and in our local community. And the goal for the whole diocese is $70 million. It's a lot of money. But the question is not about the amount. It's about whether we understand the value of what that money will go towards. Looking back on my own childhood, the most important thing I received from my parents is pretty clear. See, having two sons who are priests, my mom gets asked pretty often, "What did you do?" And she usually just kind of laughs and blames my dad because he's not here to defend himself. But it's caused me to deeply reflect, to think a lot about what did they do? And in a sentence, if I could sum it up, I would say that they cared less about what we would achieve and more about who we would become. And they knew that it wouldn't happen by accident. Or to put it differently, they cared less about our short-term happiness and more about our long-term holiness. And they knew that this required intentional effort. And in all of it, they cared less about their own convenience and comfort and more about our salvation. Obviously, this touched many areas and many different decisions, but one particularly vital part of this was their commitment, despite the cost of time and money, their commitment to send us to Catholic schools. I really believe for myself, Catholic schools were a game changer. They really were one of the most important gifts that my parents gave to me. How so? Well, I started at Catholic school in first grade. And looking back, I recall that there was no disconnect between what was being taught at home and what was being taught at school. We would pray at home and we would pray at school. I went to Mass on Sunday with my family and went to Mass on Wednesday at school. The rules at home were reinforced by the rules at school. This consistency meant that those early years of school built a foundation in virtue and faith that could be built upon later. Another part of the value of Catholic school was the peer group, was the friends that it gave me. I think my parents recognized what social sciences have shown, that kids once they start to enter into those double digits, ages 10, 11, 12, that peer influence actually starts to outweigh parental influence. It's not parents' fault, it's just a developmental reality. And so to make that work in their favor, they made sure that my peers, my friends, were kids from other families striving for the same values. I had great friends from my Catholic grade school, and as we grew up, especially as we got into high school, they became friends who encouraged me to pursue the Lord, who were good friends to me, who helped me grow in my faith and challenged me to be better. Finally, Catholic schools gave me valuable role models, especially as I got into middle school, and to that time, that level of maturity in which I could start to make my faith my own. There were a few teachers in particular who had a profound effect on me, but especially my middle school religion teacher. I knew so clearly from how he taught that he deeply loved the Lord and that he cared more than anything. He cared more than anything that each of his students would know Jesus personally. Next to my parents, I honestly think he had the biggest effect, the most profound impact on my own journey of faith. Because of him, I chose to open my heart to the Lord. I chose to invite Jesus into my life. So I had 8 years of Catholic grade school and then 4 years of Catholic high school. And looking back, I honestly don't think I would be a priest today without those 12 years of Catholic education. My parents, they were great. They were intentional. They cared deeply about who we would become. But part of what made them such great parents is that they had the humility to know that they couldn't do it alone. That they couldn't be the only ones trying to raise us in the faith. They needed a community. They needed good Catholic schools. They needed to have other role models in our lives pointing us to the Lord. That is why I believe so strongly in our Stewardship for Saints and Scholars campaign. See, many of you here at St. Pat's are like my parents. You're trying to be intentional in how you raise your kids. You care deeply about their holiness, about who they become. And you can afford to send your kids to St. Pat's or to Catholic Central, to Father Gabriel Richard or St. Catherine's. And you've decided that it is worth the cost. But there are many families around our diocese who can't afford that, who can't afford to do so. And this campaign, it isn't just for us. It's to make Catholic education possible for countless families across our diocese, now and into the future, to strengthen our schools, to better train and compensate our teachers, to give kids an opportunity to experience the impact of a Catholic education, and to make it possible for parents to give this most important gift to their children. We are a community. We are the church, and we support each other. This is why I have already made a significant pledge, why Father Matthias has already pledged, why so many of you have already pledged, because I firmly believe that my Catholic education helped me become who I am today, and I want to make that possible for others. So please, carefully consider what you can pledge to the campaign over the next 5 years. Take it to prayer. If you didn't receive a packet in the mail, please pick one up in the office. You can turn in pledge cards to the office, or you can set up your pledge online. December 8th is the commitment deadline, so please make a pledge of support before then. I share Father Matthias's hope that every family in our parish would in some way contribute to this campaign. One last thing. Jesus reminds us today in the gospel of an often forgotten fact. He is coming back. And we don't know the day or the hour in which that'll happen, and whether that's his coming in glory or whether that's when we stand before him in judgment when we die. That day will come, and we will either be ready for him, and it will be a joyful day, or we will not be ready, and it will be a fearful day. So what is the most important gift you can give to your children? That they are ready for that day. That they're ready for that day. That everything you taught them as parents, everything they learned from a Catholic education, has prepared them to welcome Christ as their Lord, as their Redeemer, and as their friend. That's the greatest gift. That is the greatest gift you can give, and I hope that it is a gift that this campaign makes possible for more parents to give to their children in our diocese.